Hi, today I'm going to talk about story problems. Okay, we're going to focus on story. Maybe it sounds easy to some people, maybe some problems are difficult to you. I begin with two problems that were asked by Joshua a week ago. Okay, I did not have time to talk about that. Okay. Right. So the first one is about analog clock. Now you have to understand the problem, okay? Then maybe become easier. So this is just story problems are just the difficult part is to understand the problem, okay? And sometimes the picture is given, sometimes the picture is not given. Right. So it says that you have analog clock has a minute hand and hour hand, okay? And you are given the information, the length of the minute hand is double the length of the hour hand. Okay, so let's draw the picture first. What does it look like? Okay, so we're going to use black color. Okay, so this is our hand, minute hand. This is our hand. Okay, so the length is double. Okay. So if the point A is at the top of the minute hand, point B is at the tip of the hour hand. Okay, what is the ratio of the distance that point B travels in 3 hours to the distance point A travels in 9 hours? Now, when we say travel, okay, this is just in the space, the length in the space. Okay, so what we need here is the following formula for a circle. Okay, if you have the radius r and this is the angle theta, this is the distance between from here to here. Okay, so if suppose this is a minute hand, people go in travels, right? And so if this is we need the arc length formula. Okay, the arc length between those 2 points, that is the distance the tip of the hour hand or minute hand travels, right? It's going to be theta times r. So here theta is in radians, not degrees. We have radians, degrees are 2 different type of measurement for the angle. Okay, and the 180 degree is going to be equivalent to pi. Okay, pi is not a number. Pi is a number here, but we use a number to describe how big of the angle. So left hand side is in degrees, and the right hand side is in radians. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, I is radius. Okay, if you understand that, then you can solve the problem easily. So let's take a look at the minute hand. Okay, the minute hand. Okay, that is the longer one, right? And then let's call the radius 2r, and this just r little r because it's doubled, right? So the minute hand travels in 9 hours. Okay, now in 9 hours means okay, 1 hour the minute hand rotate completely around the center, one circle, right? So the distance it travels for the minute hand, okay, is going to be the angle, okay? The 1 hour, it travels 2 pi r, r is 2r, right? Radius 2r. But 9 hours means you have to times 9, so 9 complete circles. So that is what is the distance the minute hand travels, okay? And then the hour hand, let's use a d hour, okay? So hour hand, the 3 hours. 3 hours What is the radius? What is the angle in the it travels, not the distance, the angle in 3 hours? Okay. So I needed to know 3 hours, 1 hour. Okay. Yeah, let's figure it out, right? So 12 hours will be 2 pi, right? 12 hours will be 2 pi. Correspond 12 hours, that is complete the hour hand, right? In 12 hours, it complete circle. So 12 hours, that will be corresponding to pi. Okay, that's 1 hour the angle travels. And then you have 3 hours. Okay, that's a total, right? Okay. And then the radius is going to be r. Okay. So after you simplified, yeah, 2 pi over 12 means the angle in 1 hour it travels 3 hours, 3, right? So that is going to be pi over 2 times r. So once you complete this, then you just take a look at the ratio. The ratio, you can solve the problem, right? The ratio over minute is going to be pi over 2r divided by, and I think 9 times 4, 36 pi r. After you simplify, it's going to be 1 over 72. Okay, so pi is gone, r is gone. So that is, so if you understand the problem, then you're able to solve it. So the distance is the arc length. Remember, not the distance directly in space, the arc length. All right, so that is a story problem from the one before last, yeah, homework 11. Okay. Now there's another problem I want to discuss. It's an algebra problem actually. I call it a story problem. It's not exactly a story problem. Okay. So here is what is the percentage of the interval? Okay, here's the interval, right? And this interval is from -5 to +5. So this satisfies this inequality. Okay, satisfies this inequality. So we are looking for some intervals, maybe over some intervals, yeah, this inequality, hold. Okay, but when you solve this, yeah, let's understand this inequality. This is an inequality. Okay, now do not just solve this inequality. You cannot. The key point is you cannot multiply both sides by x minus 1 because you don't know whether x minus 1 is positive or negative, right? So you can take the difference. So this should be positive. So then you simplify, you get x minus 1, here's x plus 1, x minus 1 minus 8. After you simplify, that inequality becomes x squared minus 1, then x squared minus 9. The question is, how do you solve that inequality? Okay, how do you solve that inequality? That's a question. So we are looking for the intervals between, sub-intervals between -5 and +5, over which this expression is positive, right? So that expression, when you see x squared minus 9, you should immediately factor it out. Okay. Now to solve this inequality, all you need to know is the travel point zeros. Okay, what are the zeros? The zeros are those x equals -3 and the 1 and the 3. Okay, and the 0 for the numerator and denominator. So those 3 zeros over that interval cost you, here's 0, here's 5, right? So -3, and here's 1, here's +3, okay? So you have 3 points here. The function is this expression either 0 at that point or undefined, because when x equals 1, that expression is undefined, right? But away from these zeros, I don't think the expression changes sign. Why? The function cannot change sign. Is it always positive always negative. So you have three intervals. You have three intervals here, 1 and 1, right? And I can use the different colors to distinguish. You have three intervals, four intervals actually. Okay, so you have 4 pieces here, and over each piece, over each sub-interval, the expression does not change the sign. Expression does not change the sign. Okay, the expression does not change the sign. Okay, if the expression changes signs, what happens? Okay, if it changes sign on some interval, let me explain to you. Okay, okay. So the function is defined expression, right? If you look at the graph, right? This is the graph. If somewhere is negative, somewhere is positive, then you draw the graph is going back, right? There is a point, you get a 0. Okay. So over each interval, there's no other zeros. So you cannot, the expression does not change sign. If the expression does not change sign, how do you know whether it's positive, how do you know it's negative? All you have to do is just to test it by checking special value. Let's choose here, -4. Over here, I choose 0. Here, I choose 2. And from 1 to 2, right? Here, I can choose, take a point, 4, okay? So I can look at, okay? So let's take a look at let's look at the value. When x equals -4, okay? So -4 minus 3, here -4 plus 3, -4 minus 1. So negative, 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 it's going to be negative. So that implies this expression, okay, is going to be negative on the interval from -5, -3, right? And similarly, when x choose 0, and here you get negative, negative, positive. So that means that whole expression is going to be positive on the interval from 3 to 1, okay? Then you take a look at the expression. I probably need more space. Yeah, I'm going to move this problem a little bit down. Okay. 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 All right. So now you take 2. So 2 minus 3, 2 plus 3, and here, and the 2 minus 1. I think it would be negative because -1, positive, negative, negative. So it implies this expression is going to be negative, okay? And that is over the interval from 1 to 3. And finally, I look at the 4. 4 minus 3, 4 plus 3, and 4 minus 1. That should be positive. So this whole expression is always positive on the interval from 0 to 4. So from 0 to 5, from 3 to 5. So you can see that there was on 2 intervals, this expression is positive. On other 2 intervals, the expression is negative. So what the percent of the interval on which the expression is positive, and you just calculate those two, the length of those 2 intervals, which positive, this one and that one, right? So the total length of these 2 intervals, one is 4, other one is 2. So for 4 plus 2, and the length of the whole interval will be 10. So multiplied by 100%, I got 60%. Okay, 60% of the interval, okay, of which the function is the expression positive. Okay, so this example shows you how to solve an inequality fractions, expression fractions. Right, so that shows you, this you needed to learn how to solve the inequality, and which is not a linear inequality, it could be like a linear term over another linear term. Okay, like in this case, is a quadratic term over a linear term. So how to solve this kind of inequality? You needed to choose to find the zeros or the of the numerator and denominator. Then you divide the whole interval into many subintervals, and over each interval you determine the sign of the expression. Okay. We probably can discuss more about that. This is from the chapter about inequalities. Right. Right. This is a good example. So the next one I want to talk about is, yeah, this is just a story problem. Okay. Okay, we're going to discuss this. If Grant gives me a penny, I will have twice as many pennies as he has. But if I give Grant a penny, he and I will have the same number of pennies. How many pennies do I currently have? Okay. So to solve this problem, you needed to set up an equation. Okay. I wanted to solve the problem using equations. Okay, using equations. So we can say it's the numbers of pennies Grant have, right? X pennies. He has X many pennies. Okay, you have to write down names of variables, right? And me, okay, Y pennies. Okay, then you write on the equation based on based on the given information. Then you solve the X and the Y. All right, let's read the first name the variable. The variable should be the unknowns in the question, but the question only is talking about myself. So you have to introduce the X and Y, two variables. One is the number of pennies Grant has, and Y is the number of pennies I have. All right, so the first sentence, I will have twice as many pennies as he has. So I'm going to Grant give me penny. If Grant give me penny, Grant is going to lose 1 penny, right? And I'm going to get to 1, right? Give me 1 penny, so I get to 1 penny. So now I'm going to have twice pennies as Grant has, so twice. Okay, that's the first equation, right? All right, so if I give Grant a penny, so Grant is going to have X plus 1 penny. I'm going to have only 1 penny, one less penny. Then we're going to have the same number of pennies. So that is the two equations I want to see. Okay, once you get 2 equations, you know how to solve it. Okay, and we are looking for X or looking for Y. How many pennies do I have currently? But you can find X first, right? Then you solve for Y. That's probably the easiest way to do. Okay, so how about like that? Equation 1, equation 2. Equation 1 minus equation 2. Equation 1 minus equation 2, I have a 2x minus x, just x. Negative 2 minus 1 will be negative 3, right? And this side will be 2. So x is going to be 5. Okay, once you get a 5, then you can get a y value. So y by the second equation, y be x plus 2. So 5 plus 2, which is 7. Then you double check. Okay, then you double check whether this is correct. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's double check. I think it's correct. So we did not make a mistake. So this is how do we solve the equation problems. So name the variables, sum in the question. Now, if the question only makes one quantity, you have to look at another quantity. So maybe you have to name 2 variables, right? Maybe you have to name 2 variables. Then you set up 2 equations, and based on the given information, you solve the problem. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do the next problem. You do your best you can try, okay? Yeah. So 36 students took a final exam on which the passing score was 70. The mean score of those who passed the 78 and the mean score of those who failed was yeah, the mean score of those failed is 60. So the mean of all score is 71. Wow, how many students did not pass the exam? Right, are you able to figure it out? Think about. Yeah, I need a equation. Okay, now you can name the variable, right? In the question, how many students did not pass the exam? So you can call it X. Okay, so you let X denote the number of the student and who did not pass the exam. Can you set up equation in X and you solve it? Right, any idea? Any questions? Any answers? Confused about all those conditions, right? So how do we get the equation in X? Well, the mean, if we know the mean, right? And question is how many students there? Okay, you don't know, right? But we already have 36. We already have 36 students. Already know that. That's a key point. All right, so total score. Can you get total score? The total score will be 36 times 71 because the mean is 71, right? Okay. Then I'm going to calculate total score in two groups. One is this group who pass the exam. Okay, so the student, okay, pass the exam is going to be 36 minus X times 78. Those are the total score from the student contributed by students like to pass exam. Okay, then the number of students who did not pass exam is X. Then the mean is 60. So that's a total. You get the total numbers of the points from the student. So now you get an equation, right? So once you write down this equation, then you're able to solve it. Okay, solving this equation is trivial. Okay, it's the difficult part is set up this equation. So equation means that both sides should be equal. So we calculate the total score in two different ways. Okay, this idea used many times. For example, if you have a triangle, if you know the three sides and what is the height of the triangle. Okay, so you find the area and using the three sides, and also you can find the area using the height. The both should match, then you get the height, right? So here you calculate the total score, just the mean times the number of the students. The number of students, then get total number, yeah, total score. Okay. Anyway, so you get this equation, then you solve this. Now let's try to solve it without using calculate, right? So what you get is 78 minus 60. I'm going to move this to the, yeah. So 78 is going to be 18. So 18x 36 times 78 minus, right? Right? Move the constant to the right, x to the left. And then you have a 36, the common fact, right? 36 is a common fact. So 78 minus x is going to be 7, okay? Then x is going to be 36 times 7 divided by 18, which is 2 times 7, it's 14. Then you have 14 students. Okay. Yeah. Don't multiply them out, all the numbers. And that takes too much time. It's easy to make a mistake. I just keep all the products here, right? Then you simplify. Okay. All right, so now let's do the next problem. At the Kroger, 2 pastrami sandwiches and the 5 sodas cost $12.65, while 3 pastrami sandwich and 2 sodas are also cost $12.65. How many dollars would the 7 pastrami sandwich and the 12 soda cost? Haha. So this is another typical problem. You need to set up equations and solve it. So I let you to try, okay? Remember, we're dealing with the numbers in decimal form, so you might not able to do the multiplication quickly. So you have to learn how to do this multiplication in a better way without using calculator. All right. So name 2 variables. All right. So please go ahead to work on this. You have to learn how to name the variables. Okay. Then you write down the equation based on what you're given. So if you have answers, just let me know. Okay. I have several names I'm pretty familiar. Andy, right? Andy, Catherine Young, Derek Young, right? Emma Shi, Emma, right? You call your name, Emma Shi. Yeah, Emma guy will give me the answer. Good. Joshua, are you able to do it? I did not get a question from you this week, so that means you solve all the 30 problems. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so the idea is that you have to introduce variables. The price for the price. Okay, so price for the you can say that let P denote the price of pastrami. I never eaten this before. Okay, and soda S, the price of soda. Okay. So then you write down what you're giving information, right? If it's 2 pastrami and 5 soda equal 12.65, then 3 pastrami and 2 soda is going to be also $12.65. Now, what do you have to find out? You have to find out 7p, okay, plus 12s, because you have to find the 7. So the question is, how do you find this number quickly? Okay, how do you find this number quickly? I think the quickest way to do it, you don't need to find the p and the s. Okay, all you have to do is, in order to get 7, you have to double the first one, twice of the first equation plus the second equation. You will get 7p 12s, because double of 5 is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. Okay, so that means you have a double of this number plus, right? So you get 2 to 3 times 12.65. Now if you multiply this out, it'll be 37.95. Now if you do this way, and then I think that's the solution, and you get the idea, the best way to. Okay. So this example tells you how to save time. Don't just go ahead and try to solve for P and S, then you do the multiplication. That takes too much time to solve the problem. Sometimes there's a quick way to get 7, like this 7p plus 12s, right? You multiply the first equation and add it to the second equation. Okay. Those are the problems from the previous math counts, right? I just keep those here, you know. You're normally given, I don't know how many minutes. I think you're given 1 minute to 40 seconds for each problem. This is spring round of problems. Right. Okay, let's take a look at the number 6. Number 6. Okay. All right. So here's a question. Here's a question. A set A has 2 more elements than set B. A set A has 96 more subsets than set B. How many elements are in set A? Now, this is a question. First of all, you should know the fact, how to count the number of the subsets in set A. Okay? So let me give you a side remark. Okay? So if you have, this, I have more space, I don't have a space. So if you have a set A, okay, so the number was X element, okay, so you have X elements. So how many subsets you're going to have? Subset means just subset, right? So the number of subsets, okay, in A is going to be 2 to the x. Okay, now this is not easy to prove. Yeah, this is not easy to prove. If I have a time, I'm really going to discuss this at the end. The number of subsets is going to be 2 to the x. Okay, and actually this is given by 1 plus 1 to the power x, and this is going to be 1 plus the cx1 cx2, this kind of notation here, x minus 1 plus 1. Those are the combinatorial constant. Xk is going to be x factorial, k factorial, x minus k factorial. Now, I hope you understand this part. Otherwise, just to know the number of subsets in A is going to be 2 to the x. Okay. If you know that, then I want to know how many elements in A, so I put x here. So subset, right? Subset has 2 more elements in subset B. So in A, you have an x, B, you have an x minus 2, I think, right? Right, x minus 2. Okay, got it. You have x minus 2 elements. So set A has 96 more sub-elements in it. So when you take your sub-elements, it'll be 2 to the x, right? And here's 2 to the x minus 2. So actually, you are going to solve this equation. Wow, how do you solve this equation? You cannot do the guess and try. Right. The key point is this should be viewed as 2 to the x divided by 4. Okay? Then you move, then you solve for 2 to the x. Okay, so you move the x 2 to the x over 4 to the left-hand side. So 2 to the x minus a quarter of 2 to the x. Okay? Which is going to be 3 over 4 times 2 to the x. This is going to be 96. So I can solve for 2 to the x. 2 to the x is 96 times 4 divided by 3. So let's calculate this. Okay, and that is going to be 96 times 4 divided by 3, it's 180. Okay. Now 180, then x should be equal to 7, because 2 to the 7 is going to be 180. 128. Let me repeat this again. I think the key important formula here is, if you know the three key steps here. The first step, you should know the formula, how to count the number of the elements, how to count the number of the subsets, if you know the number of the elements, okay? Okay. And this should be equal to 2 to the x. If x is the number of the elements in the set. Once you get that, then you get the equation based on what you're given. Then you get this equation, right? And how to solve this equation? It's a little bit tricky here. You have to express 2 to the x minus 2 as 2 to the x divided by 4. Okay? And then you solve for 2 to the x, which is 128. Then you find the x. Okay, that's 2 steps here. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. A piece of wire 180 centimeters long is cut into two pieces with the integer length. Each of the 2 pieces is formed to its own square with the integer side Okay. And the total area of the two squares is 1,073 square centimeters. How many centimeters long is the side of the largest square than longer than the smallest square? So actually, what we're going to do is let's draw the two squares, right? Let's draw the two squares. So one square and another larger square. Got it? So this side is x, this side is y. Okay. What we are given, what we have to find out? We are given the total length, which is 4x plus 4y should be equal to 180, right? We also know the area, the total area. That's going to be 1,073. We also know that x, y are integers. Okay, but maybe if not, then we have no solutions, right? So we have two equations and two unknowns. So we should be able to solve it. Okay, but probably don't need to find out each of the values. We just need to find the difference. The side of a large square minus the side of the smallest square. Okay. If we have to find the y minus x, maybe we don't need to find x and y each individual value. Okay. Now this becomes an algebraic problem, algebraic 1, right? Right. The story problem, I think the most difficult part is to name the variables and then set up equations based on what you're given. Most of the time, we have to draw the picture. Oh, Crystal, you say, what is a subset? Crystal. Who's Crystal? A subset. A subset. For example, if you have a set consists of three numbers. A subset is a set with two numbers, maybe with three numbers. And so you get, for example, in this case, you get three subsets of two elements, okay? You can also have the whole set is also called a subset. So just like a factor of a number, right? And then you have 1, 2, 3. Each subset here consists of one number, okay? Yeah, let's go back to this, okay? So, so how many subsets right now you have, right? We claim we're gonna have 8, 2 to the 3, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, why there's there's the empty set. So nothing inside, it's also called a set, the empty set, okay, is a special subset. So then you have a total 7. Empty one and the whole set is also called subset, okay? So that's why total is 2 cubed, which is 8. You have 8 subsets. All right. All right, y minus x. Y minus x, we have to find the y minus x. Now from here, how do you quickly get to y minus x? Okay. Well, you can do the following. Okay. There is an important identity, x y minus x squared plus y plus x squared. Okay, is going to be twice of x squared plus 2y squared. So if you have this identity, then you can click it. Otherwise, you just solve for x and y. Okay, and then y minus x squared here. Y plus x is 180 divided by 4. Which is going to be 180 divided by 4. 180 divided by 4 it's 45. Okay, and here's twice of 1,073. Okay, and then the uy minus x squared equals 2 times this minus 45 squared, and US supply is just 121. So 121, then you get y minus x is 11. Okay, so that's the answer. Yeah. Yeah, this is an important identity. Now, if you don't use this identity, you have to find a way to find the x and then y, then you take the difference. That's okay, you have two variables, right? The geometrical meaning of these two equations is as follows. One is the second equation means a circle, right? The first equation is the linear equation, goes like that. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, probably, I'm trying to draw it. It's a line like that, okay? So you have two solutions, x and y, y and x. Okay, the both are positive. One is larger, one is small. Okay. Yeah, this is a linear equation. X plus y equals 45, and here you get the circle with the radius. Okay, square root of 1,073, and you're trying to find the two intersection point. Then you take a difference of that coordinate. Yeah, if you don't use this equation I gave to you, then you need to solve it step by step. Okay. So the next question is, an ochre rocking chair once owned by former President John Kennedy was sold in an auction for $442,500. Okay, $500. This represents 8,850 percent of its estimated value before the auction. How many dollars was the estimate pre-auction value? Oh, that is a simple question, right? So all I have to do is right, the estimated value per auction is called X, right? So 442,500 should be equal to 8,850, right? Percent. So that means divide by 100 times X. Then you just solve this inequality. Right, so this equation, then you get 442,500, then it's going to be 8.50, right? And after you calculate, this is going to be 5,000. So original, the pre-auction estimate value is 5,000. Right. Yes, that's pretty straightforward. This is not a good example, but much easier than we thought. Okay, so let's take a look at the next one. While traveling home from school, Alicia fell asleep halfway through the journey. So when she woke up, she still needed to travel 1/4 of the distance that she had traveled while sleeping. And for what part of the journey was she awake? Okay. Okay. We can assume the distance between the school and the home just 1. Okay. So we just said it's 1. Starting from the middle point, halfway, that means middle point, right? She fell asleep halfway through the journey, halfway. So that is going to be mid. Okay. So we X denote the remaining distance she still needed to travel. All right, so let's understand this question. So we she was still moving, right? When she fell asleep halfway, right? So she's moving. Right. So we have to denote X for what part of the journey when she was sleeping. Okay, when she was sleeping is just X, right? So what part of that, right? When she was sleeping. Okay, when she, right? So that's she was in the car, right? She was in the car. Okay. Now based on what when she was sleeping, okay? So let X denote the remaining, well, we can, the remaining of them. So our question, what part of the journey was when she was awake, okay? If we can figure out the X, right, then the remaining will be 1/2 minus X. Here's 1/2, okay, right? So first of all, let's find the X. You can name the variable for other variables, okay? So for other known variables. So let's denote the distance when she was sleeping, okay? So let's write down the equation, okay? Let's write down the equation. So she, okay, my file is gone, just a second. Okay, sorry for that. So we have to translate the sentence into an equation. So she needed to travel 1/4 of the distance that she had traveled while she was sleeping. Okay, so that means the remaining, right? The remaining part, okay, is going to be, right? So travel 1/4 of distance when she had traveled while she was sleeping. Okay, so 1/4 of X. Okay, right? Got it? Yes. So that is the equation. Let's understand. When she was sleeping, right, she traveled X miles, for example, right? And so she found out she still needed to travel 1/4 of the distance, right? So that the remaining was 1/2 minus X. So you solve this equation first, then you will get 1/2 equals 1 plus quarters. Okay, so then you get X is going to be, okay, 5/4 times 1/2, it's 2/5. Okay, so 2/5 is the X. Okay, so for what part of the journey where she was awake, then the part, the answer will be 1 minus X. Okay, that's going to be 3/5. Okay. Okay. All right, so take a look at the next problem. In a closed bottom, the product of the pressure and the volume is constant. So by what percent must the volume be decreased to increase the pressure by 25%? Right. All right, so it's constant. So pressure and the volume is going to be constant. It's not changed, right? To solve this problem, I needed to name the variable. So by what percent? So we can say X percent, okay? Right? So now what do you see? The volume must be decreased in order to increase the pressure. The pressure is increased by 25%. So the new pressure is going to be 1.25 because of P plus 0.25 P. It's 1.25 P. So the new volume, because decreased by X percent, is going to be X over 100 times V. So it's 1 minus X over 100 times V. So the product is still the same. So that means P prime V prime should be the same constant, right? So let's multiply this out. And this is a V, okay? So P times 1 minus X over 100 V, and that should be called P times V, it's the same. So now you get you get this identity, and you can solve this identity, okay, easily. Okay, the answer will be X should be equal to 20, okay? It's easy to solve this equation. Okay, so let's take a look at the next problem. And this is the most complicated problems. We only have 1 minute left, but let's finish it. So each test in Shen's math class is worth 100 points. Shen scored 78 points on the first test, and her score on the second test rise her average by exactly 2 points. On the third test, her score again rise her average by exactly 2 points. And she continued to score well enough so that her mean was increased by 2 points each time. After some number of the tests, she realized that no matter how well she did on the next test, it was impossible to rise her mean by exactly 2 points. What was her mean at that time? Okay, let's understand this question. That means you even you get 100 points, you cannot raise the average score by 2 points. So the idea is you have to denote the test scores by the test score will be x1, x2, x3, right? We don't know how many tests, okay? By the test score, you can see that the test score will be, the first one will be 70, yeah. So the first, so score on the first test, right? The first test is 78, right? 78, right? So then the next one be 70, we don't know, right? We don't know. But what we know is, that's not like increase 2 points, okay? If you increase 2 points, the average is not increased by 2 points, okay? What we know is the case test Okay, so add them together. Add them together, x1 plus x2, xk is going to be divided by k is going to be the average score, right? Actually, add 2 every time add 2. So I think it's going to be 76. The mean of the k-test score is going to be 76 plus 2k. Okay, when k equals 1, that's just 78. When k equals 2, when k equals 2 will be, 80. It's like that. 2 tests. Because you can, why is 76? You can take a look at it. So this is identity, right? Then you add them together. So you get the general formula. So you can tell how many total scores you will get. Okay, you get how many total scores. So the total score will be depends on how many tests you get. So total score you can figure it out. Okay, and then you will see the difference every time you increase how many points. So the k minus 1's test, add them together. This will be 76 plus 2, k minus 1, multiplied by k minus 1. So I want to find the xk, okay? So actually you can get exactly the value. Xk is the difference, equation 1 minus equation 2. Equation 1 minus equation 2. That is the test score, the case test. I figured out it's 4k plus 72. Okay, so now you can get the general formula. The test score, okay? The case test, the test score of the case test, the score of the case test, okay? So you get that, then you will see at some point you cannot, because you cannot go beyond 100. So 4k plus 72 should be less than equal to 100, okay? Then you solve the, I'm not going to talk about the last one yet. Then you solve the inequality, k should be less than or equal to 6.5. That means the largest possible value for k is going to be 6. So after the case test, in order to keep the mean score 2 more points, right? You have to the score you're going to get on the 7th test should be more than 100 points. That's impossible. Okay, so that's why once you get the k, then you can figure out the answer. Okay, so the mean of this is going to be 88. Next one you can calculate this. Okay, so I think that's enough. After the case test, you just have to stop that. No matter how hard, you cannot get 2 more points on the average score. If you look at 7, so it will decrease. It's not 2 more points each time. So that's a good problem. It's a complicated problem. You take a look at my solutions when I send it to you, okay? Because this is a sketch of the ideas. I think the difficult part is to figure out why 76 plus 2k. Think about that. You assume the k tests, and you get a formula for the total score of the k tests, okay? That depends on the value of the k, okay? So let's stop here, and you're going to get homework later.